Hi, my name's Laura. I'm a compulsive eater, and I'm abstinent today because I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet. I write them down, I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat in between meals no matter what, and I eat those meals as committed no matter what, and I make abstinence my first priority today. I'm abstinent by the grace of God and by the help of this community. And we're here in our little Taos Friday meeting where we've been meeting for, I think, 6 years, 6 or 7 years together. We have a small group and we are doing service by making little recordings to help spread the message of gray sheet abstinence through the internet, which is actually where I first found gray sheet. I'd heard of it. I'd heard of it because I got sober in Boston, Massachusetts in 1990, and I had a sponsor who, in AA, I got sober, and my sponsor was also doing Gray Sheet, and so I heard about it, and I saw by her power of example what Gray Sheet looked like. I was not yet at a bottom with my food, but it sort of filed away in the back of my mind something about Gray Sheet, and I thought maybe someday I'll be. I remember saying to her, I think I might have a problem with food, but I certainly wasn't ready yet to deal with my food. It took me 13 years into sobriety to hit my bottom with food, and I had tried going to OA. It didn't. I wasn't willing, and it really, and it didn't help me at that time. And I was because I went there and there was no definition of abstinence, and I didn't know how to get abstinent, and I didn't really want to get abstinent. I just knew I was overweight, and I didn't want to be overweight, but I really didn't want to do anything to stop being overweight except talk about it. And I wasn't, I could talk about the steps, but it was meaningless because I was still eating. So I ended up at one point, I was going to go to an OA meeting. I lived in a place and actually was living in Europe at that point, and I would have to travel about an hour and a half to get to an OA meeting, and it didn't feel. I was gonna go. It was actually Halloween of 2003. I was gonna go, and then I was like, "Why bother? It doesn't work. It didn't work for me." So I went. I'm not gonna make that effort to go there when it doesn't work. So I went on my computer and I guess I Googled. I don't even know if Google was around in 2003, but I think it was. I did a search and I put in Gray Sheet, and I got to the GSA website, and they had a bunch of recordings there, and I clicked on one of those recordings. And I listened to somebody, and it was like, oh my God, she was telling my story. And she had also gotten sober initially and then found her way to Gray Sheet. And I really felt like for the first time, I was hearing somebody tell my story, and it was really powerful. So ended up the next day, I went to an AA meeting. I drove the hour and a half. I was coming home, and I fell asleep at the wheel of my car. I crashed my car, and when I came to from the crash, I heard myself saying inside, "It's the food, it's the food, it's the food, it's the food. You have to get abstinent no matter what." And I hadn't even heard. I mean, maybe I heard "no matter what" in her thing last night, but it just came from my heart. You have to get abstinent no matter what it takes. This isn't a game anymore. This isn't I want to lose weight. This isn't, about. It's just whatever. I have to get abstinent. And then I'd heard that qualification the night before, and I also had a contact of somebody through another 12-step fellowship that I knew was doing Gray Sheet. So I contacted her that day, and I began my journey with Gray Sheet. And so part of what the topic I was thinking of focusing on is the fellowship and making outreach calls. And, it's kind of interesting is like we never know when we're really planting a seed. We can be weighing and measuring in a restaurant, which sometimes seems hard to do, or at a function, a wedding, or a family event or whatever. And, we might have our sights set on, I'd love to so and so to get Gray Sheet. And, usually those people, what I want doesn't usually, is not necessarily what God's will is. But I might be 12 stepping a waitress. My friend Eileen and I here recently went to the Dallas retreat, and on the way home, we stopped at one of those Texas roadside protein places. And we had a wonderful meal there. And the hostess came over to give us some stuff that we weren't going to eat, but we took home for our partners and husband and whatnot. But she was really fascinated by the scale, and so you never know, it could be it could be the waitress, it could be the person on the table over there, but anyway, we never know when we're 12 stepping someone. What part of what, just speaking about the fellowship, we decided to take this road trip together and drive 10 or 12 hours to Dallas. We had wonderful fellowship in the car together as we drove there. And then we met a wonderful group of, abstinent people from all over the country that gathered together in Dallas, and we got phone lists, and we've both been, staying in contact with several of the people that we met. And recently, in the last few months, a sponsor has asked me to be willing to make 3 phone calls a day, which I had always resisted at first because I got abstinent in a foreign country and it was expensive and all that. But and for a long time, I made the calls, but it was like scraping nails. It was really hard for me. And recently, I've been open to this willingness to do that practice again, to make 3 phone calls a day, and it has so. Part of why I didn't want to do it was I thought it was going to take too much time. And if someone called me back, I'd be in the middle of something, and I was trying to control my time, and I was trying to, and I was shutting my mind. It was like contempt prior to investigation, and I was giving all the reasons why this wouldn't work, and it wasn't a good idea, and I didn't need to do it because now I have 11 years abstinent. I really don't need to do this, and it's just like it reminded me before I got abstinent. All the reasons why I didn't want to do a weighed and measured food program, or you think in your head this isn't going to work and it's too hard and it sucks. And then actually you do it and your life gets better and it's amazing, and there's amazing benefits both physically, mentally, spiritually. It's just incredible. And I would never know that by like sitting on the outside looking at it and thinking about it. My thinking is going to raise the negative, go to the negative. When I actually do stuff that is suggested to me, like make 3 phone calls a day, my time opens up. Sometimes I make a choice to not do something else, but I realize often I try to do too much. And if I could just sit still and talk to someone for a few minutes, or maybe I put an outreach call out there, I leave a message, and then a day or two later that that person calls me back, and they seem to call just at the right moment when I need a boost from the fellowship, and it's helping me on both ends. With people who are abstinent longer than me, people who have common interest in addition to abstinence that I'm getting support from, and then it's been just a delight to connect with some of the people who are early in abstinence, who are counting days at the Dallas retreat and whatnot, and start to have a friendship and a fellowship with them and see them grow and change and go through what we go through in early abstinence. So my life just keeps getting better and better as I continue to stay Gray Sheet abstinent, continue to be willing to take suggestions, do the footwork, get out of my own way, and also give back. A lot of people called me and reached out to me. People were willing to make long distance calls. This is an amazing fellowship, and we really support each other. We all know what it takes to weigh and measure three times a day, no matter what, and we're really willing people are there to help. You know, we cannot do this alone. I know that it would be like everything else I ever tried before I came to Gray Sheet. It would work for a little while, maybe only 10 minutes, maybe a few weeks, but I could never get anything to work more than a few weeks of my own willpower, or without the strong solution and support that we have in Gray Sheet. So thanks for letting me share, and I don't eat no matter what.